voice of the fan. Drop a bounce pass, throw down the rim rocker. Lay up off the glass, right past the shot blocker. I follow through like Kobe's is money. You can cash it. For news on LA Hoops, come over to Peach Basket. Up-to-date sports, post-game reports. Debates and play-by-play coming straight off the court. The voice of the fan making noise, causing havoc. Zone a man up, you can ask Peach Basket. The Peach Basket, coming soon on air. The Peach Basket, where the news begins. We're dropping news like we're in the stands. Creative views from the average fans. The Peach Basket.
All right, it's Saturday night. That means it's time to run it back. We haven't done this for a bit because we were busy really with playoff predictions, which we're going to talk about today. But before I get to that and kind of our topics for the day, I don't feel like I say it enough. That song was written by one of our contributors, Tony, who is phenomenal. And he has reached out to me about giving it a little update. So I'm excited to see what he has in store for us. I hinted last week, and I think the week prior, that we've got some news coming up at the Peach Basket. So we've been hinting a little bit about that, and I want you to just kind of stay close. If you listen, hit the site, follow us on Twitter, and we will slowly over the next few months start to give out a little bit more information. One of which might very well be a brand new song by Tony Yashar. So we're the Peach Basket. We're a site really, and I kind of misspoke because we don't want to be more than just a site. We really consider ourselves more of a community of like-minded basketball fans, passionate basketball fans. I like to call our team fan experts because they know the game. They watch the game the same way these quote-unquote experts do on TV, and I'm regularly impressed by their analysis. And when we go over the predictions, you'll see what I'm talking about. Joining me today, as always, is our partner from the site flteams.com, your source for all things Florida. He doesn't. His site doesn't just cover the Heat and the Orlando Magic. They cover everything related to sports in Florida. And so that's Isaac. It's just Isaac and I today. So how you doing, Isaac?
Hey, Jose, thanks for having me on, and I hope everyone listening is enjoying the NBA playoffs. And even if you're not enjoying them because your team's not in it or your team has lost and is, well, that's only one team as of now. But hey, hope you're enjoying.
They've been great, and I tweeted out today that the playoffs started out with Jay is, I'll put his comments on here because why not? And he's right about Heat Nation. We'll get to that. But we commented, on Twitter today that, if you remember back the last weekend of the NBA playoffs, the games were phenomenal. Every game went into the fourth quarter. They were tight games. I think the biggest victory was an 11-point victory. So I thought it was going to be the greatest NBA playoffs in the history of ever. And now all of a sudden, you're seeing blowout after blowout after blowout. I don't know if the Bucks Heat was a blowout today, but certainly the Sixers was a blowout. Excited to see the Jazz and the Grizzlies as we speak right now in a tight battle. So we will make sure if you're watching this to not keep you from the end of that game. So we don't have a whole lot to talk about today. We just want to share a little bit about an update on our predictions as well as maybe some bold predictions for what's to come. The one shout out, Jay just commented on Heat Nation. I promised him I would wear my LA Lakers championship hat. I couldn't find it, so I found my 2010 Lakers championship hat, but it doesn't quite fit. So it looked kind of silly on me. So I got it here just to call out the fact that we got AJ watching, and I'm grateful for that. So let's talk our predictions. I made the point earlier that our team really are fan experts, and this is why. These are our picks, right? So before the playoffs started, Isaac was a part of this. We asked everybody who they thought they would win. So in the West, we had the Jazz, the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Blazers. I think the only one of these, well, that's not fair. I think two of these that are still probably pretty iffy might be the Clippers and the Blazers. Although you can make an argument that, the Lakers are a little bit on shaky ground. think a big part of it has to do with Chris Paul's health. But let's talk about that real quick. Honestly, the Jazz are in a battle right now against the Grizzlies. So maybe that isn't 100%. But we unanimously picked the Jazz to move on. We're mostly confident the Lakers would. Unanimously picked the Clippers, which might come back to bite us as a team, and just barely believe that the Blazers would win over the Nuggets. So, Isaac, let me get your thoughts. I know that you're more of an East Coast guy. I'm more of a West Coast guy. So, how, when you look at this, at these four predictions right now, the way things stand now, which do you think is the most precarious? Which might not happen?
Well, the Clippers. I definitely, have them as, the most unlikely as of now. And what Luka Doncic's doing is amazing. But what's so amazing is Porzingis has been, I don't really like to use this word, but terrible in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the Clippers are still, I'm going to say, down bad, right? They're not having that, much success. And then I'd say the Jazz. Obviously, no one picked the Jazz in 7, but I think that the Jazz are going to win this series. They may not, and I'll be surprised if they don't. But as of now, again, the series is tied 1-1, as Jose said a few minutes ago. The Game 3 is going on right now. But look, Lakers, right now, we don't really know. They're probably going to win, but again, we don't know. And the Blazers, they've been really good against this Nuggets team with projected MVP that's going to be announced soon.
Yeah. I made I wrote an article entitled "Bold Predictions," and one of the predictions I made about that Blazers Nuggets series specifically was that these were two evenly matched teams. They're built differently, right? But they're grinded out, solid teams that don't make a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of similarities. And so I envisioned this going 7 and the 7th game going into overtime. I just envisioned a great battle between two great teams. And I think, the percentage here is indicative of that. We really aren't sold. We wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets were to win. But I have to go back to, the question I posed to you, and I can't help but agree with you. Of these 4 predictions, the Clippers are the least likely to come through, I'm afraid. I have said before here that I really try to be agnostic in terms of, being a fan of a particular team. I am from the LA area. I go to Laker games. I go to Clipper games. But I have a soft spot in my heart I cannot deny for the Los Angeles Clippers because this team just can't seem to succeed. This is the guy who tries hard but can't hit the layup. Right? This is these guys just have been perpetually bad for so long and really do seem to be cursed. And I just want them to win, man. The old adage is a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and again. I just want that for the Clippers, man. A broken clock is right twice a day. I want the Clippers to just get right because they've worked so hard, certainly over the last 7 years. Now, before that, they got what they deserved. They had crappy ownership. They had made crappy decisions. But, the last 6-7 years, they've been trying really hard, 7-8 years. So I want that for them, but I don't know. In my bold predictions article, I said that the Clippers would win Game 3. They did. They would lose Game 4, and then they would be down 3-1. This team famously gave up a 3-1 lead twice over the last 5 years, 2015 and again last year. So it would be poetic for them to come back from being down 3-1 after being up 3-1. So that was a bold prediction. I'm not sure if I'm sticking with it. We'll talk about that after. But I agree with you. I think that's the one that's most likely to happen. So let me ask you, Isaac, a general question now. Assuming that these teams will win, and we'll just put the Clippers in the win column for now because that's what we predicted. What do you think is the key for each individual team? If you were to just encapsulate it, what's the key for each of them to move on? What's the key for the Jazz? Let's start there.
For the Jazz, look, Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, obviously are definitely going to be, one of those keys. But specifically, I'm not just going to say, Donovan Mitchell needs to be good. I mean, obviously, right? He's
Yeah.
just not a player. But to dive deeper, it's going to be Rudy Gobert, who's arguably, I think he's the best defensive player in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to win defensive player of the. Oh, that was already announced, was it? I don't know. Either way,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be Rudy Gobert. And defensively, he needs to get those rebounds. He needs to block a lot of shots. And again, if we have these 4 teams winning, the Utah Jazz are going to be playing against, possibly any of these 3s, right? If they make the finals, they have to go through one of these 3 teams, at least one of them, because obviously they're going to play one of them in the next round. But Rudy Gobert, I think, is the anchor of the team. I think Donovan Mitchell's better than Gobert, but defensively, and I know, Jose, you like this because you're a defensive-minded guy, Rudy Gobert's the key. Now, you want to go to the Blazers next or the Lakers?
Yeah, well let me chime in a little. Defensive Player of the Year has not been awarded yet, but Gobert is the favorite.
Yeah.
He won it twice already, which would be amazing. And while we're on the subject, I cannot go on without it, just calling this out. The Utah Jazz had a phenomenal center in the 80s named Mark Eaton. This guy posted up against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He played with Karl Malone, John Stockton. He was the center. His average was 7 points and 8 rebounds, right? Which just doesn't sound like much, but the dude was an all-star, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year because the dude blocked shots. Almost 6 a game was his average. His lifetime career average was 3 a game. That's the greatest since the stat has been counted. Mark Eaton, the greatest shot blocker in the history of the NBA, passed away today, which is sad. And I hate to, start out with that. I guess we're not really starting, but kind of in the middle. But I do want to call it out, and I hate to, talk about the Jazz and defense and bigs without calling that out today, because that did happen, and it's sad. So, yeah, let's switch now then to the Blazers. For the Blazers to move on, assuming they get past the Nuggets, what's their key?
Dame time, right?
Sure.
Look, Damian Lillard, no, Dame time, because the final minutes, playoff games are very close because you got 2 top teams, right? That's why the teams made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Dame time. We've seen he's one of the most clutch players in playoff history. Steph Curry is definitely a better 3-point shooter, but there's an argument that Damian Lillard is more clutch in the final minutes, specifically the playoffs. And look, not many people could guard him because he's such a lethal weapon from the logo and anywhere else on the court.
No argument for me. The Blazers go as far as Dame takes them. And he's a guy I'd like to see succeed. We talked about soft spot in my heart for the Clippers. I think I have the same thing for Damian Lillard as a player. How about the Lakers? Should they get past the Suns? What's the key for them to succeed?
I think it's team chemistry. If you look at the Lakers as a whole, they have so many weapons.
Yeah.
LeBron and AD duo, right? They could carry a team in the playoffs. They're going to carry the Lakers in the playoffs. But Dennis Schroeder, Alex Caruso even, Andre Drummond, Caldwell Pope, they're all weapons. And why do I say Caldwell Pope's a weapon? Well, when you got teams focusing on Anthony Davis and LeBron, he becomes a weapon. So it's team chemistry, because if LeBron and Anthony Davis each get 10 points, that doesn't necessarily mean the Lakers are going to lose. For some other teams, yes, such as the Heat, right? Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. But for the Lakers, if LeBron and Anthony Davis are getting 10 points, I want to look, are the other players getting 30 points? Because, again, teams are focusing on the duo that Drummond is going to have a good game. Caruso, Caldwell Pope, even Kuzma. So the Lakers just have so many options that it's team chemistry that I think will be the key for them.
Yeah. It's easy to say LeBron, right? Yeah. And you wouldn't be wrong if you said LeBron, but I love that you keyed in on that. Montrezl Harrell was kind of trending a little bit today because he liked a couple of call outs on Twitter and Instagram that were calling out his lack of playing time. So people are saying, oh man, is there some chemistry issues on the Lakers? I don't think there are. I think this is a tight knit group. And, I love the way you categorized it. Drummond, I think, is really fitting into his role. I'm a Mark Gasol guy. I've been saying it from day one. I think he needs to start over Drummond. But Drummond has kind of stopped trying to be the offensive guy that he was in Cleveland, and he's kind of settling into his role. He's gonna eat. I mean, the guy, there'll be buckets to get, there'll be rebounds. Other teams don't have players as big as him, so he'll feast down low, and he's starting to take advantage of that, I think, and has been a double machine for the Lakers. So again, I would still prefer a playmaker over somebody like Drummond. But I said on Twitter not too long ago, if he kind of embraces his Dennis Rodman role, that the Lakers are going to be in good shape. And so everybody, fitting into their place is key for these Lakers to move on and excel. This one's the biggest stretch, but assuming that the Clippers happen to get past Luka and the Mavericks, what would be the key for them in the second round?
Yeah, it's tough because the Clippers, like I said,
may not get past the first round. Yeah, agreed.
I'm going to have to say avoid social media as the key.
Wow.
Why is that? Look, the Clippers are a top team, and they don't perform as a top team, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And even besides that, Paul George is getting, always gets hate. He's one of the most hated players. But I think avoiding social media may be a key for the Clippers because, look, they're one of the most popular teams in the NBA, and popular teams like to get, hated on and, popular on social media, right? Trending. But for the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard's going to be good. Rajon Rondo's on the team. But, the Clippers are playing similar each game. But I feel like it's either chemistry or something, but I think it's the mental. Yeah. It's just not there that they play hard. And I think avoiding social media is the key. I mean, Kawhi Leonard's not a social media guy. Paul George, I don't know. But look, avoid social media.
Yeah.
Something mentally needs to be fixed with the Clippers because skill-wise, I think they're going to play the same. But I think mentally is why they're losing these games that they should win.
Yeah. And again, no argument for me. Something's got to change. I am not popular with Laker Nation when I call this out, but the Clippers have been the better LA team for the last 7 years. When you look at head-to-head matchup between the Clippers and the Lakers, now granted that was only in the regular season because they've never advanced to meet in the playoffs, which is the Clippers' fault. But the Clippers in the regular season have been phenomenal. They've been a great team, and they've regularly beat the Lakers. 3-1. I mean, it's not even been close. But when the Clippers get to the playoffs, they regress. When the Lakers get to the playoffs, they put their foot in the gas. It's wild. It's a tale of two teams. And what it is, I don't know. I made the point recently in an article that the Clippers are like a scared turtle and they just retreat to their shell. And maybe, it is. Maybe it is social media. There's something mentally going on with that team and they just can't seem to punch through.
Yeah.
I agree. I think them getting past Dallas and going into the next round is iffy right now. So we'll talk about them in the second round should they make it later for sure. Let's get to the East. And we'll rip off the Band-Aid, Isaac, all right? We'll talk about the bottom left-hand quadrant first. We picked the Bucks. It was close. We weren't super confident as a group, but we got it right. Now, if you notice, nobody picked them in 4. I said on Twitter today, if anybody picked the Bucks in 4, let me know. I want proof, because I don't think anybody expected a sweep. And I think we're all pretty shocked. So I'll ask you 2 questions. You're the Heat guy, and I want to be sensitive because I know it's a bummer. But tell me what it's going to take for the Bucks to advance beyond this round now, and then tell me what you envision for the Heat now. Is it for a lot of teams lose in the first round and they want to blow things up? Are the Heat going to blow things up, or are they going to tinker and adjust?
They're going to tinker and adjust, and this offseason may be one of the most how should I say it? because it's not going to be a lot of changes, but this may be the most changes we've seen in many years for the Heat.
Mhm.
I'm going to say this now. The Heat, and this is how it's been for many years, draw a lot of attraction, right? There were Russell Westbrook rumors, right? A few off seasons ago that he's going to go to the Heat. Again, currently Kawhi Leonard rumors, Victor Oladipo rumors that the Heat may, re-sign him. Kyle Lowry rumors, etc. Look, Duncan Robinson, I don't think he's going to be re-signed. But I think the Heat are going to get someone popular. When I say someone popular, I'm going to say popular because I don't know how good they are anymore. Kyle Lowry, he's good, but again, he keeps on regressing each season. Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard, Victor Oladipo, who that is someone I don't know if he's good anymore. His sample size is so small because he keeps on getting injured. And we don't know if he's good. So the Heat are not going to make a lot of changes in the front office, but the Heat are going to make a lot of changes in terms of their starting lineup. I think the Heat are going to have a much different look in their starting five next year. Right now, I think the only two locks are Bam and Jimmy. I think, well, Dragic's a free agent. Tyler Hero, who knows with him, and I don't think he's a starter anyway. But look, it will be interesting for the Heat. Now for the Bucks, they are the best defensive team in the playoffs. And Giannis, again, is why. But Chris Middleton has been good. Drew Holiday has been terrific. And this Forbes guy, well, no one knew who he was. Maybe people thought he was the owner of the magazine Forbes. Forbes business. But no, he's been amazing in the playoffs. So the Bucks have been way better than they were in the regular season, and that's truly amazing because they were good in the regular season. And again, they're likely going to face the Nets, who we're going to say are going to win based on this graphic up there. And you got the best offensive team in the playoffs against the best defensive team in the playoffs, and that's what I'm going to leave it to Jose, the defensive minded guy.
That was a softball, man. You handed me a softball. Yeah. Pat Riley, and again, I've said this before, Pat Riley has famously said defense wins championships. The best offensive team in the NBA historically, all right, you're going back to the first time this was ever, a stat that was followed. That team that finished the regular season as the best offensive rated team has never won a world championship. Offense is tricky because obviously you need to score more than the other team. But the best offensive teams do not fare well in the playoffs. That's because it's a grinded out game, and defensive teams tend to do better. The Lakers were an elite defensive team. They won last year. When I look at the Bucks via the Nets versus the Nets, we'll talk about the Nets a little bit. Again, it's a 51-49 pick, but I go with a defensive team. I think they're better, and they're certainly good offensively. Let's see. I haven't read it yet, but Jay just chimed in. It's not going to happen, but I wish we got a Battle of New York. We'll talk about the Knicks in just a bit. I'll leave that up here for a minute. So, to me, I think you nailed it in terms of the Bucks and what they need moving forward. They did great against Miami. They need to continue that defensive mindset moving forward. Let's jump to the Knicks since Jay called them out. We picked the Knicks almost unanimously, although somebody picked the Hawks in 7, that's a bold pick. If that happens, I'm going to let you know who it is. I don't know who it is now.
That's the most likely to happen, I think, as of now. I'm going to say that.
Probably. But we had the Knicks in either 5, 6, or 7, so we're one of those things will likely still happen. Personally, I just love watching fans in Madison Square Garden. It's just been fun to watch them go crazy and come up with those chants. What do you think is the key for this Knicks? The Knicks team is really interesting because they don't have a superstar. They've got an all-star, right, Julius Randle, but they don't have a superstar, right? Derrick Rose isn't really a superstar anymore. Quickly is very good, but not a superstar. Again, Julius Randle, I see him as a superstar. He's a very good up-and-coming player. Can this team, make some noise, or is getting out of the first round their high watermark?
Derrick Rose, man, he's been good in the playoffs.
He's been good, undeniably.
And I think for someone who's not really like the Knicks, I don't really hate any NBA teams. I'm one of the fans. I know Heat fans generally are not that aggressive, but I don't really hate any teams. I don't know why I would. I'm not going to follow. Even if I'm a 76ers fan, and I know 76ers fans like hate a lot of teams. There's no reason for me to hate any teams. The Knicks I just don't like because of their fan base, and they're in the same conference as the Heat. But for the Knicks, I feel like their key, I could say, is their fan base, right? But I think that's silly because of what Trae Young's done to their fan base already.
Yeah.
But Derrick Rose, man, for someone that doesn't really like the Knicks, I think almost every NBA fan is so happy for him to see him in the playoffs. Look, I think he's the key for the Knicks. He has played solid minutes so far. Again, I don't think he could play close to, let's say, like 45 minutes per game, like let's say the next round, but he is playing big minutes. I think Derrick Rose may be better than Julius Randle in the playoffs.
Yeah.
By the end of this series. I do want to say that. Even if the Knicks are knocked out, I think Derrick Rose will be the better player in this playoff series. I'm not talking about going into next season. I'm just talking about recapping this one playoff series. I think Derrick Rose is the better player, which makes him the key for next series.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, he's been better. He's been outstanding, and he's been coming off the bench. When you have somebody that dangerous coming off the bench, that's pretty amazing. I agree with the Jay. I don't think we're going to see them in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think them getting out of the first and having second round matchups in MSG is going to be their high watermark. It's going to be great. I predicted that before. They will have games in the second round. I think that's probably as far as these Knicks get.
Before, I hate to say this because obviously, if it's how we have it on this graphic, 76ers versus Knicks, those two fan bases. That's gonna be fun. But
yeah, right. Yeah, both of them have had. There was a spitting issue in Madison Square Garden. There was a popcorn incident in Philly.
But even excluding 2021 events, right, with the spitting.
Yeah, right.
It's still the same situation. Yeah,
agreed. Well, I do want to update real quick. If you're listening, Grizz went out to an 8-0 run to start the fourth. It's now tied with 7 minutes left. So we're going to hurry because I don't know what's the end of that. Let's talk Sixers now. The Sixers are up 3-0 against the Wizards. I made a prediction before that no team would be swept. I already missed that one up. If there was going to be a team to be swept, it was going to be the Wizards. Let's just ask it this way, because up 3-0, no team's ever come back from that, and I doubt that the Wizards will. Do the Wizards win a game, Isaac, or is this a sweep?
No. I thought Russell Westbrook was better than us, right? He's not, he's not found his rhythm in the playoffs. Bradley Beal, who knows what's happened to him? Is Bradley Beal still fighting through injuries? Because he's just really not been his regular season self, right? I know Steph Curry finished regular season leading the NBA in points per game, but Bradley Beal, if I'm correct, was second. And Bradley Beal's not himself. And himself, let's get the definition of himself. The 2021 regular season, Bradley Beal.
Yeah, and this is a guy who had 25 points today, but just shot 1 of 8 from 3. So yeah, he's a little off. You got to have.
And by the way, 25 points in a playoff game where you're playing more minutes is not for Bradley Beal. Again, he averaged close to 30 points in the regular season, and you're playing more minutes in the playoffs. Yeah. That's not that good.
Yeah, and shooting 1 for 8 is not good. And the only way the Wizards win a game is if they have peak Bradley Beal and peak Russell Westbrook. I'd like to think they're going to win a game. Well, I'll save my thought there. But yeah, it looks like, based on history, nobody's ever come back from 3-0. I don't think that the Wizards are going to be the ones to do it.
The Heat would have been. The Heat would have been those ones.
They had that opportunity. Are you hearing music or is it just me? Oh, it must just be me.
Curry through the
I see. No, hold up. I've got another monitor open and it was playing music in my ear. I'm sorry. Let's talk Nets.
I heard that too, by the way.
You did too? Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Let's talk Nets. When I said no sweeps, I was glad to see the Celtics win. Everybody was saying they were going to get swept. Jason Tatum was ridiculous at 50 points. But the Nets are likely coming out of this one. We predicted that pretty unanimously, although I wonder who picked the Celtics in 6. Actually, I'm pretty sure.
In 6, why not 7?
Yeah. Jay is asking as well, and we'll tell you later who I think it is. I'm not even certain, but
I'm certain.
Yeah, well, pretty sure. But theoretically, it's still possible. But let me just ask it this way, because it's pretty likely. What's the key for these Nets going up against the Bucks, assuming they come out of the first round?
The key is simply the phrase, the big 3. The Bucks, again, based on this graphic and based on actually my personal predictions, are going to face each other. Oh, wait. I predicted the Heat to win. Too bad. Bucks won. But as of now, obviously the Bucks already advanced and the Nets are likely to. They're going to face off against each other. We were talking about defensive teams and offensive teams. Well, the big 3. Because as good as the Bucks are defensively, you don't have 3 top defensive guys that could stop 3 top offensive guys. The Bucks have 3 defensive guys: Brook Lopez, Giannis, and Middleton. But top, I only think Giannis is top. Middleton is, he is top, but I don't think at the level of stopping Kyrie, Harden, or Durant. But simply the big 3 is the key. Because if you have all 3 of them scoring more than 25 points, it's done with. And again, that excludes assists and rebounds, because James Harden last game almost had a triple-double, right? Mm-hmm. And they still lost that. So it's the big 3. I mean, I don't know what other keys. I mean, you could say Joe Harris and stuff, but the big 3, if they're on fire. Yeah. Because look, here's how I interpret a key. Let's say I said Joe Harris, and Joe Harris drops 40 points. Well, if the big 3 sucks, the Nets don't win. But if the big 3 does amazing and Joe Harris sucks, the Nets win. So that's, the key.
I got you. I want to lean in on the Bucks defensive players. You named 3. I'm going to name a couple more, and you named this guy earlier, Jrue Holiday, right? Jrue Holiday is probably going to line up against Kyrie at some point for sure.
Definitely.
And then you got PJ Tucker coming off the bench, who is a good, strong defensive player.
Offensive rebounds a lot against the Heat.
Absolutely. He's not who he was, but he's got 6 fouls and he's going to use them. And that's the kind of player you want against these types of players. You want them to feel, right? You want them to feel somebody on them. And I love your analogy, right? If I play the Nets, I want Joe Harris to have 40, but I also don't want the other guys to go off, right?
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah, you got to pick your poison, right?
And by the way, if Blake Griffin goes off, oh boy.
Well, see, I mean, and if I look at it, and Blake's been starting, if I look at it, but he's the one who's going to be open, and if I'm picking, a defensive strategy, I'm going to double everybody. I'm going to let Blake hit his threes in his mid-range. But again, it's impossible to stop them. You want them to feel it. You want Kyrie to feel someone on you, James Harden, Kevin Durant. You want them to work for their shots.
And again, as good as the Bucks are defensively, they don't have one player that can stop James Harden. Durant could be stopped again. He could shoot from anywhere on the floor, so that's a problem. But I look at Durant, he could shoot anywhere on the floor, and then Harden could create space with his step-back 3. Both are impossible. Kyrie is the most defendable out of those 3, but his ball handles, I'm naming 3 aspects of those 3 players. It's hard to stop. Now, Giannis could guard Durant, but he doesn't really fit with him because Durant's more athletic and so on. Jrue Holiday is the closest to Kyrie, right?
Yeah.
But then I don't see how anyone else could be stopped. And then again, like you said, Blake Griffin, he's going to be open. I just imagine if Spencer Dinwiddie was on this team. He is on the team, but
he's just not active. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, listen, the team is loaded. It's going to be fun. It's going to be kind of you and I were talking today. It's going to be, the best offensive team essentially against the best defensive team. We'll see who wins. It's the age-old battle. And I'm very excited about that matchup, assuming the Nets get past Boston, which,
I feel like it's going to be one of those games where there's going to be a few blowouts in this series, surprisingly. I feel like sometimes the Bucks will just shut you down, and then the Nets will just They can't be stopped. So I feel like, I know you guys are thinking this is going to be a close series. It's going to be a close series. It's maybe going to go 7 games, but in terms of the game final scores, I'm actually going to call a few blowouts. I guess that's my bold prediction.
So. All right, well, let's get to that. I did want to call out Jay, just mentioning, we've been talking about all of the problems the Nets players are going to have.
They're not good defensively.
Yeah, but the Nets are going to have trouble guarding Giannis, which is a good call out. All right, let's talk about our bold predictions. I had an article. I wrote some. We've talked about some in the last 30 minutes. From this point forward, you got a bold prediction for us, Isaac?
Yeah. And I'm going to say the Lakers are going to make the finals. That's a bold prediction because what seed did they come in as?
Yeah.
But no, being realistic, a lot of people don't think that the Lakers could even advance and pass the first round because of the Suns. And for me, LeBron's unstoppable. I don't care how old he is, he's unstoppable. And let's say they stop it. Well, that means someone's open on the Lakers floor, and the Lakers have at least an above-average player at every position. And again, Andre Drummond has struggled so much since coming on the Lakers in the free agent signing. It was a free agent signing because obviously he got cut by Cleveland, but he's been good in the playoffs. And again, we were talking about this with the keys to the Lakers, right? They have so many players. So my bold prediction is the Lakers making the finals as the 8th seed. That hasn't happened in a long time.
7th seed.
7th seed, same thing.
They did, yeah. Well, in that play-in tournament, I agree with you, right? In Memphis, you really finished 9th. It's the first time a 9th seed has ever been in the playoffs. So this whole whole play-in thing has been kind of wonky. That's a great prediction and very bold. When I said bold, you went bold. I'm not sure I'm ready to go bold.
I was going to go bold with the Nets are going to win the finals. And again, that's my prediction. I'll quickly put that out. But that may not be that bold because they're projected to. More than the Sixers.
I'll tell you, like I said, it'd be the first time, an offensive-minded team won. I mean, Mike D'Antoni, he tried to do that with Houston, and offensive teams just don't seem to succeed. But you called out today, we were talking before the show, this is a different team. The Nets are just built different. They're phenomenal offense, but they're not just offense. So anyway, if I was going to throw out a bold prediction, there's 3 minutes and 15 seconds left. The Jazz have taken a 4-point lead against the Grizz. I want to go watch the end of this. So I will simply say, for my tepid prediction, that the Washington Wizards will not get swept. That's it. I know I'm not a risk taker. So that's as far as I'm willing to go.
Oh, man.
Sorry. All right, man. I appreciate you guys taking the time, watching, listening, wherever you are. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you for joining us. We are the Peach Basket, a site dedicated to all things basketball and really endeavoring to be more than just a website, but a community of passionate basketball fans, fan experts. And if you're watching and you understood everything and all the silliness and, analytical things that we may have thrown out, you are likely one of us. You're likely a fan expert. We'd love to hear from you and explore opportunities to get you in as part of our community. Thanks again to Isaac, flteams.com, your one-stop shop for all things Florida sports. We'll be back next week. Enjoy the Jazz Grizzlies. We're out.